Okay, so originally I am from Leavenworth, Kansas, but I was raised in Ocala, Florida, and I now live in Los Angeles, California. I'm an undergraduate student at UCLA. I am part of a community service organization at UCLA called Alternative Breaks, and right now it's our spring break, so instead of having a spring break, we travel to different locations throughout the U.S. and focus on a social issue. And right now we're in Chicago because we're focusing on improving housing security for homeless youth, and since 40% of homeless youth are LGBTQ related here in Chicago, that was that's the purpose of us being here, like the Art AIDS America, Chicago. Well, the first person I ever came out to was myself. I've always known since like even the age of 5, first person I ever was attracted to was a male. Growing up, I eventually went through like all different stages that I'm sure most people are familiar with going through, like telling yourself you can't be gay, or like I think the first thing I ever said to myself was that I'm physically attracted to men, but emotionally I'm attracted to women. So of course I'm going to marry a woman eventually and have a family, like be like, you know, the normal American nuclear family. And then eventually got to being, well, I'm bisexual. And then finally, my senior year of high school, when I was 17 years old, 17 is when I officially told myself that I was gay, but I wasn't going to tell anyone unless they actually asked me. So it was like kind of like a don't ask, don't tell basis. And the first person I actually had a full-on conversation with was my older sister. She's 7 years older than me, and she identifies as lesbian, and she came out of the closet when she was 18, 7 years before I did. And she always knew, apparently. That's what she told me. And one day she was visiting home from her job. She lived in a different city, and we were just sitting on the couch watching Netflix, like scrolling through all the different movies we could watch, and I was like recommending all these great LGBT films to her, and she thought it was pretty obvious that I wasn't trying to come out to her by any means, but she just like put the remote down and then just said, "So Josh, when are you going to tell me that you're gay?" And it was a very nerve-wracking thing because I feel like my sister, being also part of the community and identifying similarly to how I identify, it would have been easy to come out to her, but I was kind of shocked that she asked, and I mean, now it's very humorous the way that she asked, but I don't know, I was very thankful that she did that because it normalized it for me, and I feel like at that time my sister's opinion was probably one of the ones that mattered more than anyone else's, even above like my parents or my other siblings, because we had so much in common. So yeah, she was the first official person I had like a conversation with about it. So the rest of my family, they're all very nice about it. I have an older brother who I describe as being like a teddy bear because he's so empathetic. He cares about all kinds of people regardless of like, you know, how they identify on any sort of spectrum or scale or anything. But so my mom, I was raised Catholic, and my mom, again, she's the type of person who loves her kids for who they are. She wants them to be happy, but it's still at that level where she doesn't really she doesn't acknowledge it. Like, she won't bring it up, and she's the type of person who doesn't really like talking about it because I can tell maybe on some level it might make her uncomfortable, but she's learning because she does have 2 children. She does have 2 children who identify as being gay, lesbian. So I think that you know, it's a learning process. Once you know someone, then you become more accepting of it. So and as for my father, my parents are divorced, so I don't spend as much time with my father, but he's never fully verbally stated the word gay to me to my face at all, but he knows because of the method that I came out. I just like made a Facebook post when I was 18. And but he told me, he dropped me off at the airport the next time I saw him, and he said, I think he used the term like, "I love you, Josh, no matter what lifestyle you have." So he used like that term lifestyle, which I know irks a lot of people, myself included. And but I do know my father's like political leanings are more conservative, and I always wonder, at some point, he probably wishes that I were straight. He voted for Trump. So yeah, those are my parents. So I came out on National Coming Out Day, which I'm really thankful a day like that exists, because I think it's very beneficial, and it like prompts people to reconsider, or not reconsider, but to affirm their identity and maybe figure out ways of asserting who they are and having the agency to say who they are. And so this was National Coming Out Day, which I believe was like October 10th or October 11th, 2013, and literally the night before I found out about this event, and I just decided as I was falling asleep in bed, I'm like, you know what, tomorrow I'm going to write a long Facebook post and just tell everyone, because as I mentioned before, I'm from Florida, so going to UCLA, going across the country where I had no family, being by myself, it really gave me the initiative to be independent and like I said, assert my own identity. So I wrote a long-winded Facebook post about like, how I'm still normal, how nothing's changed, I'm different. I've always known since I was 5, and just kind of like, it was more about assuring other people than really, I asserted my identity, but I am proud of the way that I did it, but I feel like most of the post, the content of it was about assuring other people, and I did not receive like a single negative response at all. And I don't know what I was expecting. Like I was, on some level I was afraid my close friends like would feel uneasy about it. And in the future, of course, over time I realized some did, but at that point everyone was very supportive. I received like lots of messages of support from family. Some people just didn't acknowledge it, and they thought that was like a good enough way to just act like, okay, everything's normal, it's fine. And so yeah, it was like a very positive experience, I would say. Honestly, this sounds like such like a heteronormative answer, but I really think from my own personal experience, in the gay community specifically, I think the biggest challenge facing us is relationships, like actually opening up to other people, being emotional, forming connections. At least from where I live right now in LA, a lot of people, a lot of gay identifying men are very hesitant to do that. And if they do open up, I feel like it's this immediate fear that comes with it. And like, it's like, on some level, it's toxic masculinity. I think that really prevents men from wanting to engage publicly in relationships, which I get, as I mentioned before, I feel like that's like a very heteronormative perspective to have, but it's also just a very normative perspective to have, to normalize it, to make it okay, to like be in an open relation, not an open relationship in terms of seeing other people, but being in a relationship that's open visibly is, I still think we have a lot of progress to make on that, a lot. So if someone was watching this and they identify with my story, and if they hadn't come out yet, advice I would give to them is just never live for others, live for yourself. And I know that's easier said than done, because depending on your familial background, the situation, you may not want to like, you feel like you'd be disappointing your family, disappointing your friends if they found this out about you. But ultimately, I think, this is a very generalizing thing to say too, but like, ultimately your identity is, you're not actually, they don't know who you are. This is such like a vital aspect of your personality, and by not telling them, I feel like you're just living such a superficial, like, you're not being true to yourself, which is like, that's a very cliche thing to say, but honestly, like, live for yourself and not for others. And it takes time to be confident in your identity, but I feel like once you're on a whole other level than, a lot of people are not confident in their identity. Straight people are not confident in their identity. So I feel like taking pride of such a vital aspect of your identity and being open about it, and not like throwing it in people's faces, but just like acknowledging that it's there and it is a part of you and you're proud of it. Other people will see like your dedication, your passion, your pride in yourself, and they'll be inspired by that. So.